Salesforce is used by 90% of Fortune 500 companies and accounts for 1/3 of the CRM market. Maybe you just earned your Salesforce Admin certification, or maybe you're supporting an organization in your first admin role. Either way, without practical experience, it can be difficult to understand some of the daily tasks that you may face. I understand the challenges you face, as I once made the move from a help desk associate to a Salesforce administrator. I designed this course to cover key product features and admin responsibilities. My aim is to help you become comfortable with the platform and confident in your role. Join me and begin your Salesforce journey. For most companies, one of the pain points when it comes to delivering connected customer experiences is that the systems or data used to be more efficient or generally siloed. Salesforce uses the terminology Customer 360 to describe how Salesforce can help enable all different company views into one unified view to deliver on customer experience. Salesforce's Customer 360 solution portfolio is comprised of different services or clouds as described and displayed here, which target a specific function or market. There are many clouds offered by Salesforce, but we'll focus on the most popular clouds that are core to the Salesforce platform. Your organization does not need all 360 solutions, but knowing the offerings may provide a better context of how you can best manage your company's implementation. Sales and Service Cloud are the most popular in the industry. Sales Cloud facilitates the sales process, including the management features to account data, opportunity, and contact data management, and more. Service Cloud helps organizations manage their customer service. This may include case, knowledge, returns, and file management. It also helps with personalized engagement and getting real-time data visibility to customers. In addition to Sales and Service Cloud, Marketing and Commerce Cloud make up the core solutions to helping customer growth. Marketing Cloud helps these organizations reach customers using personalization across email, text, and more. Marketing Cloud also facilitates cross-channel journeys to connect people to sales and unify people with data. Commerce Cloud, on the other hand, is a platform focused on physical and digital product sellers, including automating scalability, channel management, and customer journey roadmaps. Salesforce's Customer 360 isn't just reduced to clouds, but through specific platform capabilities. This may include popular tools like Tableau, Einstein Analytics, Slack, MuleSoft, and more. The clouds and platform capabilities I've mentioned are certainly not an exhaustive list of the many Salesforce offerings. The best way to learn more is by visiting salesforce.com/products. Additionally, Salesforce's Trailhead offers many trails that you can complete to expand your knowledge. If at any point you have specific questions about which cloud best fits your org, consider consulting with a Salesforce representative. Keeping in mind that as an administrator, it's more important that you are enabling productivity and growth for your organization. So knowing about all of these tools is not necessary. They are all designed to be used individually or together. Salesforce offers different Sales Cloud editions, or types of instances for organizations, usually based on the size of the organization and flexibility of the instance needed. There are 5 different types: Essentials, Professional, Enterprise, Unlimited, or Developer Edition. Essentials is typically designed for small businesses, while Salesforce Professional is designed for businesses requiring full-featured CRM functionalities and where most companies start. Larger organizations may use Enterprise, Unlimited, or Developer Edition. The Enterprise Edition, mostly where organizations start, is used for larger, more complex businesses, while the Unlimited Edition extends the platform as well as access to Premier support, increased storage limits, and more. The Developer Edition extends Salesforce's functionalities as well as extends integrations. 501c3 nonprofit organizations with 10 or fewer team members can apply for 10 free Sales and Service Cloud Enterprise Edition subscriptions through the Power of Us program. If this applies to your organization, you can apply for a grant by visiting the Power of Us website. Otherwise, pricing may vary. Again, please consult with a Salesforce representative for further information about pricing, the limitations based on the edition, and if you ever wanted to upgrade your current Salesforce edition. Knowing your current Salesforce edition is helpful when troubleshooting any issues you may have as an administrator. To find out which Salesforce edition you have, click on the top right and select Setup when you first log in, and then search for company information in the left search bar. You'll find the information in the Organization Edition field on the page. As a Salesforce admin and user, it's important to know the release cycle and dates so that your organization is prepared for when new features and functionalities are released, and you'll be prepared for the implementation changes. Releases happen 3 times a year, and updates may come in as early as 4 to 6 weeks before release goes into production. And you can find all that information in the Salesforce's help page. You can find out further information if your instance is ready at least a year in advance by logging in and reviewing the Salesforce Services maintenances on the Salesforce Trust page. You can also go to your current instance in Setup, then search for Release Updates in the left search bar. In preparation for releases, you can also check out salesforce.com/releases to learn more about the upcoming releases and review the release notes. The Salesforce help page is your go-to place to find documentation, videos, and even additional resources like Trailhead, the Trailblazer community, Success Center, and even more. Just go to help.salesforce.com. Finding help is also easy to access from your organization's instance too. From the top right of your page, you can click on the question mark, which will give you a menu of options. Everything from getting started to getting help on the specific page. The Get Support option redirects you to the Salesforce help page. There are a few key places to highlight on the help page. First, use the search and select a topic of interest to be navigated to Salesforce-specific results. You may see resources from the Trailblazer community and more. Navigating back to the help homepage, you'll see one of the most popular Salesforce resources like Trailhead, the Trailblazer community, Success Center, and events. Your organization may also consider upgrading a success plan for additional Salesforce support and customization help. You can find and compare these on Salesforce's Success Plans page for both business and for nonprofits. One of the great things about Salesforce is that as you're learning, it's really helpful to have a Salesforce developer org so that you can experiment without working in your organization's sandbox or instance. Sign up for a Salesforce Developer Edition by going to developer.salesforce.com/signup. And finally, on a rare occasion a service or Salesforce page is down, status.salesforce.com is a helpful resource to see if a Salesforce incident or maintenance window is occurring. Salesforce offers great resources when it comes to finding support for all Salesforce products, so if you're ever stuck, make sure to leverage Salesforce Help first. Salesforce Classic, the original interface, is currently approaching its end of life. As an admin, this may mean that you'll be responsible for prompting your users to switch to the Salesforce Lightning interface and transitioning your organization to Lightning by default. While Salesforce Classic offers great capabilities, Salesforce Lightning offers a better UI experience, extends productivity tools, App Builder, and App Exchange components, and access to Einstein Wave analytics for reporting. Not only is it a good idea to transition because of the continued advantages of new updates from Salesforce, but being on the side of innovation always makes your organization competitive. Users will still have access to Salesforce Classic even after the transition. For the Lightning experience transition, one of the best things you will need to do is identify your organization's readiness and establish a transition team. It is essential to get alignment from leadership and stakeholders regarding the rollout and change management strategy to ensure a smooth rollout. To ensure the implementation rollout goes smoothly, Salesforce provides a Lightning Experience Transition Assistant from Setup. You can access the assistant from the top left panel and begin by reviewing the path and stages, which serves as a great starting checklist for your rollout. In addition to the Lightning Experience Transition Assistant, the Journey to Lightning Experience Learning Map is a great resource on how to break down your discovery, rollout, and optimization into bite-sized knowledge. You'll also find additional resources, including the associated trail mix on Trailhead, a featured Lightning transition group, and more. One of the critical things to consider as you leverage the Lightning Experience Transition Assistant is to prepare for the Lightning Experience Readiness Check. Best practice dictates that before proceeding with the check, your organization should update any existing AppExchange apps to Lightning apps if they're not already, as well as remove any apps in production that you do not use. And as always, back things up. The last thing you want to happen is to create consequential changes. Consider making the backups more regular during the transition process. Once your organization has enabled Lightning Experience, users with the Lightning Experience user permission can toggle between Lightning and Classic by selecting one of the switch options. You can learn more with Salesforce's help page or on their YouTube channel. The transition timing may depend on the complexity of the organization's digital footprint and how much technical debt there is, so keep this in mind as a plan is being created. Admins should consider leveraging their technical team to ensure that the transition goes smoothly by leveraging their Salesforce resources and implementing a strategy that will ensure a smooth change for your organization. Good luck! As a Salesforce professional, looking for ways to troubleshoot efficiently is a great idea. If you'd like to quickly identify metadata and data directly from the UI just by hovering, you can download the free browser extension, Salesforce Inspector. Salesforce Inspector allows you to access data like a field name, API name, help text, description, value, and more for a record at a click of a button. You can also complete other tasks like data imports and exports, logging in as other users, and more. This is a reliable tool that many Salesforce professionals use that reduces the number of clicks you need to do to get the job done. You can download the tool today by visiting your Chrome and Firefox web stores. I'll be using the Chrome Salesforce Inspector by searching and selecting Add to Chrome from the Chrome Web Store. Once downloaded, you'll log into your Salesforce instance. When you log in, you'll see a new sidebar slider on the right side of your browser. When you click on the arrow, you'll notice all of the available capabilities. Salesforce Inspector will improve productivity. One example is when users report issues that may require you to log in. Without the extension, you'd have to typically go to your setup to search and then log in as the user. With the Salesforce Inspector, just select the Users tab, search for the user, and then click on the Try Login As underneath the user's name. Another instance that may come up is when you're reviewing field information for specific records that may or may not be on the page. Typically, admins would have to go to the Object Manager and go through several page layouts to identify the information. With Salesforce Inspector, it's as simple as selecting Show All Data from a specific object record and reviewing the page from there. As you become more familiar with Salesforce Inspector, you'll find more use cases. As a beginner, though, being aware of the tool at least allows you to familiarize yourself and find quick ways to complete tasks. As great as Salesforce's core capabilities are, you can also extend your instance's functionalities by leveraging other applications. Just like how a user would download apps from the Apple or Google Store, users can visit the Salesforce AppExchange to search and install solutions for Salesforce. The easiest way to visit the AppExchange store is by going to appexchange.salesforce.com. You can also get to the AppExchange by launching the full list in App Launcher and selecting the Visit AppExchange button at the top right. I do recommend visiting AppExchange through the browser instead, since there's more search flexibility. You'll see a variety of both free and paid apps from many different developers, including Salesforce Labs, which provides additional in-app guidance and recommendations. AppExchange has a variety of collections, recommendations, and ways to find exactly what you're looking for. You can also review the ratings and comments on the apps listing for further recommendations and feedback. Before downloading any applications, you may want to first consider what apps you already have installed. To find your current installed apps, go to the Setup and in Quick Find, search and select Installed Packages. You may notice some packages in there already that came out of box depending on your selected Salesforce plan. If you select the name of the specific package, you'll be navigated to the package details, which can be helpful if you need to review the used licenses, if the application is active, the version number, and more. When you're ready to download an application, just click on the Get It Now button. You'll then have to decide which environment to download the application on. It's best practice to always install and test in a sandbox first, but since I've already done that, I'll go ahead and install in a production environment. All we have to do now is accept the terms and conditions and verify any details before proceeding to confirm and install. You should see a green toast confirmation box at the top of the page, and it will redirect you to your Salesforce login page. Once you log in, you'll be directed to the setup page and select who the app is installed for. We'll select Install for all users and click on Install. Go ahead and also grant access to these third-party websites. During the installing process, if it takes a while, you'll see a notification that tells you that the app is taking a while to install. You can go ahead and hit Done while it's still installing, and check your email to confirm that the installation has been completed. You'll see your newly downloaded app on the Installed Packages page. To confirm, just click on the package name. It's up to you as a Salesforce administrator to install apps and configure your Salesforce environment for your business's specifications. Work with users to find out what their specific need is. Let's talk about planning a Salesforce rollout if your organization is transitioning from an existing data management system. Before committing to Salesforce, it's important that leadership and specifically identified stakeholders can provide the buy-in for the organization. The discussion stakeholders should have include weighing the costs and benefits, estimating potential risk, a defined scope, and outlining specific goals. Your organization should also consider identifying Salesforce experts who will implement or even train your users just before and after the rollout. A successful strategy for a rollout should always have defined requirements, a project management plan, and a communication plan. To ensure that all users are represented as requirements are refined, you'll want to get open-ended feedback through surveys, interviews, and workshops from members of different teams to explain their relationship and interactions with the currently implemented processes and systems. Have users check out Trailhead on their own if they're unsure of what they could potentially leverage with Salesforce and don't seem particularly imaginative about how to improve their current workflow. A common practice is documenting user findings through user personas. Personas provide a better understanding of the user's work behaviors, capabilities, tools, and perspective rather than titles. Personas help admins identify how users work best and provide a platform that works for them. With all the planning put aside, your team will be designing and configuring Salesforce, but it's important to be mindful of how to migrate your data. Here are some important things to consider. First, before even addressing any strategies for migrating data, it's important to make sure that the data is accurate and helpful. This is also a good time to deduplicate anything. Your system is only as good as the data is. Salesforce's native import wizard accepts comma-separated values from Excel or Google Sheet files. Just keep in mind that prior to import, you'll have to ensure that they're mapped to an existing Salesforce or custom field. Third, keep in mind that during your implementation, there's a possibility that updates via Salesforce's release schedule may occur. You'll want to ensure that you've prepared for unplanned interruptions and maintenance. Visit salesforce.com/releases to learn more. And finally, proceed with caution, test. Importing can be messy if not set up correctly, so always test in sandboxes first and back up your environments whenever possible. For more advice on implementation changes you may want to consider during the rollout, check out the Set Up and Maintain Your Salesforce Organization page on Salesforce Help. Remember that even after a rollout occurs, you'll want to ensure that you're able to measure and iterate on implementation to optimize users' adoption of Salesforce. The transition will require patience and nurturing since not all users accept change. This is not done overnight, but a system focused on adoption ultimately enables your organization. As a Salesforce administrator, most of your tasks will require you to familiarize yourself with the Salesforce setup. This is where you'll customize and configure your organization's users, pages, and more. By familiarizing yourself with a few key areas, you'll be able to find what you need without memorizing all paths. To get to the setup page at login, you'll first navigate to the setup, which is displayed at the top right of the page as a gray gear icon. Once selected, you'll see two different options. Select the first option and click on the blue gear icon. A new tab will open. You'll notice that this setup home is different from your home page as a user. Now that we're at the setup home, here's a quick overview of some important parts. At the very top of the page, you'll find the global search, where admins can find specific setup or object records. For example, let's say I wanted to look for our users. If I go to the global search and enter in users, I may select the first option, users, or any other results that might show up. The quick find is a frequently used feature that allows users to enter a keyword to find any administration or other platform tools without consistently scrolling or memorizing. For example, if you're looking for the permission sets page, you can simply begin typing permission or even sets and select the page you're looking for. Without quick find, you'll have to know to select the collapsible users and then select permission sets. Next, the object manager is where you'll go to access objects and object settings like fields, layouts, record types, and more. You can find the object manager by clicking at the top of the page next to the Home tab. For example, if I wanted to review fields for the account object, I'd select the object manager, click or search account, and then select fields and relationships. Another part of the setup homepage to note is the create shortcut. As you can see here, the create shortcut allows you to quickly create users, custom objects, and more with just one click. On the setup home, you may have noticed the carousel. These tiles provide admins quick access to the latest information about Salesforce's platform. Finally, the most recently used section. This will show a list of settings you recently changed, and you can save on clicks if you need to revisit them at a later time. Now that you know about global search, quick find, carousel, and most recently used, you're now ready to learn more about key setup configurations. Let's review key organizational settings like the company's number of used licenses, organization's general information, fiscal year, and business information. This information is helpful in not only general administration, but may impact your support team's escalation rules. At the setup page, go to Quick Find and begin typing in company. You'll select company information. This page will display your organization's profile, user licenses, permission set licenses, feature licenses, and usage-based entitlements. Let's go ahead and look at user licenses. I can see that I've used one of two Salesforce licenses, which is helpful to know if my organization may potentially need more licenses for a growing team. If I wanted to update my company's address and phone number, I would just scroll back up to the top. And to the right of organizational detail, select the edit button. If I wanted to update my company's locale settings, on this organizational detail page, scroll down to locale settings. As you can see, you can update the default locale, the language, and even the time zone. Returning to the home page again. If I wanted to update the fiscal year so it's reflected correctly in future reporting, I would go to Quick Find and enter in fiscal year. And I'll go ahead and select fiscal year. By default, it's set to the start of January, but if my organization wanted to update it to July, all I would have to do is update the fiscal year start month to July. You'll also notice that you can base it as well on the beginning or the end of the month. If your organization has a unique fiscal year, you may want to consider selecting the fiscal year radio button, which is displayed right underneath the standard fiscal year. You'll see a display warning requiring you to acknowledge the implications by selecting the checkbox right above the Enable Custom Fiscal Years button. This cannot be undone, so again, please review Salesforce Help for more information. Returning again to the homepage, let's review my company's business hours, starting off by entering in business hours in QuickFind and selecting business hours. You'll see default at first, as the system has a default setting already configured. Notice the new business hours at the top of the screen as well. The main reason an organization may have multiple sets of hours is if there are support teams that work in different work hours. For example, if we wanted to edit our default business hours to reflect a 9 to 5 and not include the weekend, we would go ahead and click on the Edit button next to Default and scroll down to Step 3 for the business hours. Go ahead and uncheck all of the 24-hour checkboxes. Clear the hours on Sunday and Saturday. And enter in the information for 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. Once done, hit Save. And finally, let's set up holidays. To do so, go to your QuickFind again and search and select holidays. This page shows all of the holidays that you have in your business. To create a holiday, select New. You'll want to enter in the details for your holiday, and if it is a recurring holiday, select the Recurring Holiday checkbox. Once done, hit Save. As you can see, your new holiday is created, but if you want to add it to specific business hours, for example, certain time zones may have different holidays that work for others, you would have to go to the bottom of the screen, under your holiday, hit Add and Remove next to business hours. Your business has only one default business hours, so we'll go ahead and hit Default, add it to the selected business hours, and hit Save. You'll now be able to see your listed holidays under the Business Hours and Holidays section when you review it in QuickFind in Setup. Now that you know how to configure your instance for your business's information, your teams can now collaborate more effectively and be aware of each other's schedules. Making sure to update your organization's locale ensures that displayed information is familiar to users and helps improve their Salesforce experience. The selected options that may impact how information displays for users, such as date and time, periods or commas and numbers, and more. At the Setup page, go to QuickFind and begin typing in company to select company information. The company information will display the organization's profile. You may initially see details updated based on how you set up your account, but ideally your default locale settings should reflect the information of most of your users and should be set up to date. Users can always change their individual settings to fit their situation. To edit your locale settings, select the Edit button at the top of the page next to Organizational Detail and scroll down to Locale Settings. First, you can update the default locale to a specific language. Most of my users are in the US, so I'll keep it as is. Locale settings are important because depending on the region of the world you live in, the data may change. After all, you'd want users to get name ordering right, as well as dates, times, and phone numbers when communicating internally with customers. For example, I'll keep my default locale to English. Default locales also include other global locales for English, Spanish, French, and more, so choose accordingly. Next, you can update the default language. Most of my users are in the US, so I'll keep it as is. This means that all of the text and online help by default will be set in English. Let's review default time zone. It's currently defaulting to the Pacific Standard Time. However, my organization's HQ is on the East Coast, so let's update the time zone to Eastern Standard Time. Now that we've updated locale settings, let's review my organization's default currency for things like reports, fields, and more. Salesforce does support multiple currencies, but there are implications to this. So please make sure to consult the Salesforce Help Guide for more information. Our organization is in the US, so we'll keep the settings as is and save our company information at this time. To save, go to the bottom of the screen and hit save. And with that, you can now ensure that your organization's regional settings fit where the users are. As you prepare your organization's Salesforce setup, it's important to prioritize security. One way to do this is by configuring your own IP address ranges. IP addresses are unique addresses that identify devices over a local network or the internet. In Salesforce, you can configure a full list of these IP addresses. By learning how to set up your IP ranges to address your organization's trusted networks, you'll help protect it from unauthorized access. This also reduces the number of times the user needs to do login challenges. At Setup, you'll navigate to Network in Quick Find and select Network Access. You'll see what's currently configured for your trusted IP ranges. Currently, that's none at this time. So because we want to create a new one, click New at the top of the screen. Your network administrator can provide you with your organization's ranges, but you can also look online with trusted tools like What's My IP that can provide you with your public IP address. For now, we'll type in our current start IP address and end IP address. Once you've entered in your details, it's also a good practice to add a description to ensure that as the list grows over time, the difference in changes are more recognizable and distinct to other administrators or Salesforce professionals working in your organization. Click Save once the details are complete. It should redirect you to the trusted IP range list again. For more information about session security, I highly recommend checking out Salesforce's Help Guide on session security. You'll find details about trusted IP ranges, CSP trusted sites, and more. One of the priorities when you're providing support for a Salesforce environment is creating and maintaining some rules to ensure that there's no dirty data and that users will trust that the system is reliable and usable. Dirty data refers to incomplete, inaccurate, or inconsistent data. This means accounts being listed twice with different spelling, the same contacts listed with 2 different phone numbers, and more. To get started, we'll review duplicate management, which allows us to ensure lead, contact, account, and individual objects are set up with the appropriate roles if there are any conflicts. Keep in mind that duplicate management doesn't apply to custom objects or person accounts, so you'll have to be diligent when reviewing these. At the Setup page, go to Quick Find and begin typing in duplicate. Duplicate error logs is where you'll find any errors that may occur in your system when record matching is attempted. As your systems grow, this log will grow too. Duplicate rules are used to help define what happens when a user views a record with duplicates or tries to create a duplicate record. You can configure duplicate information in general or set up separate configurations for when the rule is run. Matching rules in duplicate management is what's used to determine whether a record can be considered a duplicate. Matching rules can be mapped with duplicate rules to ensure that Salesforce can determine and apply the appropriate rule for matching. Rules can be activated and deactivated, and when you do your initial setup, you'll start with standard and duplicate matching rules that need to be activated in order to consider duplicates. Before you begin creating, activating, and deactivating new and standard rules, I encourage you to take the time to visit Salesforce's help articles on how to manage duplicate records, to review any additional considerations you need to make, as well as the best rules for your business needs. Here are a few things to look out for if you activate standard duplicate rules or create your own once you've created the criteria in matching rules. First, duplicate rules require you to define what the object in mind is that you'll be creating. You can see that by selecting the New Rule button and selecting a relevant rule object, you'll be creating a rule specific to the object that you had in mind. If you select the wrong object at that time, you'll have to hit cancel or return to the main page for duplicate rules. Secondly, when you create a new rule or select a rule by clicking on its name and selecting edit, you'll see the record level security option at the bottom. Enforcing sharing rules means that the system will only review records that the user has access to, versus bypassing sharing rules means that the system will review records regardless if the user has access to the record or not. On the same page, you'll also want to look for the action section, which tells the system what you want to happen when the user tries to create a record. To allow means that the user can still continue to create the alert on creation or when editing a record. To block means that you won't be able to create the same record. You have the option to alert the user and provide accompanying text, but I would always encourage to continue having report be checked off regardless, as if the user is allowed to continue with their update. It'll go into a duplicate record sets object, which will allow you to record instances when the system recorded a potential duplicate and is separate from errors. For more information about handling your data quality, visit the Salesforce help page to learn more about third-party data integrations and leveraging the Salesforce tools about data quality. As an administrator, there are a couple of things to look out for to ensure what your users have access to. In Setup, go to Quick Find, Search, and then click on Users. You'll find the full list of both active and inactive users. 3 things to look out for are the selected role, active, and profile columns. Roles provide a way to grant access to records, and it can impact reporting when organization-wide defaults have been set up to anything more restrictive than public read-write and are not mandatory. If you'd like to see the full list of all the available roles for your organization, go to Roles, which you can find under Users in the left Quick Find menu. On all users, you'll also find the active column. Users cannot be deleted once created, so as your organization continues to grow, you'll be more cognizant about which users are active and are not. The profile for a user is what is used as a defined state of objects, fields, and other related permissions for the organization and are required. Like for roles, you can also see the list of available profiles by going to Profiles, which you can also find under Users in your Quick Find menu. You can edit, clone, or create profiles and assign different record types and page layouts to users assigned to a specific profile. Before you even begin creating new accounts, you should always make sure that you have enough available user licenses for what you need. Otherwise, you'll have to start all over again. To check, type in select company information in Quick Find and check under user licenses. Now let's review how to activate, deactivate, and freeze users. First, let's reactivate an old user by going to All Users and then selecting a user. I'll go ahead and select on this user's name. Once I've selected a user, click on Edit at the top of the page. At the Edit page, check on the Active box at the right of the screen and select Save. You would want to deactivate a user if you wanted to prevent them from logging into Salesforce and are prepared to transfer their records to another user or update any automated workflows or processes with their name. To freeze or unfreeze a user, select on the user's name again, and then at the top of the screen, select the Freeze button. Respectively, you would also click on Unfreeze to unfreeze them. You would freeze a user if you're just trying to temporarily prevent them from logging in. As a best practice, an administrator who sees a team member roll off will usually freeze an account first and gather the necessary details to ensure who will receive the old user's records before officially deactivating the account. Setting up users is easy, and with the right structure that represents your organization, you can have confidence that your users can continue their work in Salesforce. As always, you can visit View and Manage Users in Salesforce Help for additional help and considerations. Administrators are the Salesforce detectives in their organizations, so as you support your organization, I've highlighted a few of the most common issues you may come across that require some administrative troubleshooting. Users who need help with logging in may require an admin to review their user record for support. To check a user's record, you'll need to navigate to the setup page and search for the user's name directly at the top of the setup as much, or by going to Quick Find and entering in users. By selecting users, they'll be navigated to the All Users page. On the All Users page, they can select on the correct user. For now, I will click on this user. Let's go ahead and select a user's detail by selecting on their name. Once you've selected the user, you'll want to first confirm if the user is even active by confirming if the active checkbox is checked. Next, you could potentially see an unlock button, which means that the user exceeded login attempts, an unfreeze button, which means at some point an administrator froze the account, and then keep in mind that if the user's account is frozen or inactive, the user will not be able to log in because of its inactive status. If you don't see either of those things, it's possible that the user is just inputting their username or password incorrectly. Work with the user to make sure that they're mindful of any typos or case sensitivity. You may also find it helpful to review their login history, which you can find at the bottom of the user's page. This can usually tell you if an invalid password occurred, when the last successful login was, and so on. Incorrect username entries are not in this login history, though. If the user no longer has access to the email that they signed up for their account or do not remember their username, you can work with them to identify if they've entered in the correct username or if they need a reset of their password. If the user is entering in the correct username, it's possible that they forgot their password. To reset their password, the quickest way to do this is to go at the very top of the screen here and select Reset Password. Press OK. And as you can see, this is a confirmation that a new password email is being sent their way. Returning to the specific user, you can also generate a new password by going to the Edit button, scrolling down to the bottom of the page where it says Generate New Password and Notify User Immediately, and selecting Save. And as always, there are a number of scenarios that you can troubleshoot, so to learn more, check out the Troubleshoot Login Issues page for a more detailed view of other potential issues that the users can run into. As you become more acquainted with your Salesforce organization, you'll definitely gain some more familiarity and how to best help your users. As long as you're mindful of the Salesforce access and the expertise level of your user, you should be well equipped to support them. Good luck. Search layouts are the ordered field columns that are displayed in search results, lookups, or in a related list. By optimizing your search, you make it easier for users to find what they need. For example, let's say as a sales associate, I'm searching for a company with multiple branches and a parent account. I'll enter in that company in global search. I'll go ahead and select Show More Results. I see a number of results in my search. However, what if I wanted the results to show a parent account column to make it easier for me to look at a glance? Let's update the search layout so that I can actually see the parent account from this page. To do so, I'll go to Setup by clicking on the gear cog icon and clicking Setup. Once it's set up, I'll go to Search on Quick Find and click on Search Layouts. We can update search layouts based on the associated profiles, but at first, select the relevant object. In our example, we talked about updating the account object, so I'll go ahead and click on that. Make sure to select the correct profile. At this time, I want to update my changes for all users, so I'll select the default layout. However, if I want to change those search results for a specific profile, you can click on any of the other profile options. I'll go ahead and select default layout at this time. Now that we're at the Edit Search Layout screen, we can see what fields can be added and which are there. For our example, we'll go ahead and select Parent Account and add it to the Selected Fields column by using the Add button. I can use the up and down buttons to change the order. Once done, I'll scroll to the bottom of the page and click Save. Let's see what it looks like in action. I'll go ahead to our previous search result and refresh the page. As you can see, I can now see the parent account column, and it will help reduce the amount of time that it takes for the sales associate to find what they're looking for. Now that we've reviewed search layouts, you may also find it helpful to go to your search manager to see the searchable fields by object. Go back to Setup, and in Quick Find, we'll enter in Search and select on Search Manager. Salesforce is supported by Einstein search capabilities. So in addition to search layouts, you can also click on Search Manager that lets you click your search by field, or on Settings to customize more Einstein search capabilities. As always, check out Salesforce's help guide on Einstein search on additional tips, limitation descriptions, and more. By optimizing search, you'll be certain that your users are always able to find what they need more intuitively. If you work for a global company, being aware of how to configure your organization to ensure compliance with GDPR is important to gaining the trust of your users and avoiding legal or financial repercussions. GDPR, or the General Data Protection Regulation, is a EU law regulation passed in 2016 that guarantees persons the right to their own data privacy. It altered how organizations handle information and opened them up to large fines if they breach the rules. With GDPR in mind, let's review a few areas in which Salesforce can be leveraged to be better equipped to protect users' data outside of Salesforce's general compliance. First, keep in mind to not over-engineer or complicate role assignments. Just ensure you've made clearly identified specific rights or data to users based on what you believe they need to complete their work. While it's a tedious task, it also keeps data clean and better represents the current account or user role hierarchies, profiles, or permission sets. Secondly, Salesforce has an out-of-box feature that allows administrators to enable the user's request to delete their personal data from Salesforce more directly, rather than having the organization do it themselves. To enable that feature, go to User Management Settings in Quick Find. Once there, scroll down to Scramble Specific Users Data section and just click on the Enable option. There is an additional step to invoke in an Apex method to remove this data, but do consult with your company's Apex expert or developer for support. Ensuring the protection of your users' personal data should be a priority, so do ensure that you've leveraged your legal team as well as the Salesforce's data processing and compliance documentation on Salesforce Help. Salesforce provides assurances that they comply, but it's also up to your business to ensure that. Salesforce uses objects, which can best be described as database tables with specific stored data. These tables are all connected through shared or related fields. Administrators can see how the objects relate in two ways, Object Manager and the schema builder. Understanding the relationships between not only standard objects, but by the custom objects you'll create is vital because it ensures data is captured and it can be shared in a way that makes sense for your organization. To view the Object Manager, begin at the Setup menu. Next to the Home tab, you'll find the Object Manager tab. Click on this tab. The Object Manager provides you with a full list of objects that are in your organization. The objects are displayed by label name by default. You can click on the object's name or by searching in the Quick Find on the right of the screen. Let's click on Account as an example. All objects display these different sections like details, field and relationships, and more to provide you the flexibility of customizing how the object is displayed and used across the organization. As an administrator who wants to review how account relates to other objects, the biggest hint is to go to the fields and relationships at the left bar and take a look at any fields that have lookup, hierarchy, or master detail following an object in parentheses. This is an immediate call out that there are fields that relate to other objects that write data to your object. For example, the created by field is a data type of lookup user. This makes sense because whenever an account record is created, the system logs which user created the record, and if clicked on that field, it'd be taken directly to the user record. To update or create new relationships for an object, you'd create fields that have established relationships with other objects via one of the 3 different relationship types: master detail, lookup, hierarchy. One of the other ways that administrators can identify these relationships visually is by using Schema Builder. You'll find the Schema Builder button at the top right of the Object Manager header, or by searching Schema Builder on the Setup homepage and searching Schema Builder in Quick Find. Schema Builder not only allows you to visualize your data, but you can also edit your model directly. As you can see, there are many objects when you select all, but if you're keen on identifying specific relationships, it's best to just click on the specific objects of interest via Objects or by searching the object in Quick Find in the default Objects tab in Schema. You can also hover specific lines and it will tell you what the relationship is. You can also see relationships on the object themselves. For example, I can see that this seller object has a field called Party that has a lookup relationship with the individual object. Do tread carefully though, as with all object changes, there are generally big implications, so as always, test in Sandbox first. You can see the plus or minus signs at the bottom right corner above the table visualization of all your canvas to get the view that's easiest for you to see. Keep in mind that unfortunately, administrators cannot print or screen grab their schema, so I encourage you to search to get the best view that you can by selecting the objects of interest. In addition to viewing the tables, you can also use the Elements tab to the left of the Objects tab in Schema Builder to create objects and fields and drag their associated information onto the canvas. As an administrator, being most familiar of how objects speak to each other is vital to ensuring that you can troubleshoot all data issues that may arise as well. And with your Object Manager and Schema Builder knowledge, you're more than halfway there. Salesforce's data is organized in a way that can be compared to an Excel sheet, where each sheet is an object. As it relates to Salesforce terms, columns are fields and rows are records, a specific instance of an object. Your database is made up of objects. There are different types of objects in Salesforce: standard objects, custom objects, external objects, platform events, and big objects. Administrators should be most focused on standard objects and custom objects since they are the most common. External objects, platform events, and big objects are less common and do require some more advanced Lightning expertise. Please consult with your company's developer or with Salesforce help if you're working with those objects. Standard objects are objects that are included with Salesforce, while custom objects are objects that your company has created that's unique to your organization. Standard objects cannot be deleted, but custom objects can. It's always encouraged to leverage standard objects as much as you can, but your organization may want to create custom objects when 1. There isn't an existing standard object or an external object that represents the data, or if 2, there is a larger or unknown quantity of data that could relate to the potential piece of data. For example, let's consider what a learning company might do to track courses. I could create a custom object called courses, which could eventually have related information like a course description that you may not want tracked under an account or instructor record. To create a custom object, you can use Object Manager or Schema Builder in the setup. We'll go ahead and go to Object Manager. Once there, click on the Create button. You'll see 2 different options, Custom Object and Custom Object from Spreadsheet. If you already have all of the fields in a .csv, XLS, or other Google Sheet file, and you can map them in Salesforce using the wizard steps, you should use the Custom Object from Spreadsheet option. We'll be clicking through the first option for this specific example. Once you arrive at New Custom Object, follow the prompt and make sure the required information is completed and described before saving. For most instances, I'd recommend you select Allow Reports under the optional features to make sure that you can create reports later. Select In Development under Deployment Status if you don't want your users to see the new custom object right away. If you want your object to appear for users in search terms, I recommend selecting and following the prompt for Launch New Custom Tab Wizard checkbox so that they could proceed with making those changes. If you prefer to create the new object with a visual interface of your system, you may want to use Schema Builder. Keep in mind that you'll have to build master detail or lookup relationships using fields to relate objects together. You can go to Schema Builder by clicking on the Schema Builder button on the Object Manager tab. In the left sidebar, click on the Elements tab. Click Object and drag it onto the canvas. Then you'll enter in the information about your object and hit Save when you're done. Always test in Sandbox and be mindful about any customization. Be sure to keep things simple and easy to use. Salesforce's data is organized just like an Excel sheet, and each line of information is called a record, where the data is stored. As an administrator, understanding how fields are recorded helps you troubleshoot issues and define inputs correctly. All fields will have an established field level security that you can grant edit access for, depending on the profile. There are 2 different types of fields, standard and custom. The standard fields are fields that are predefined by Salesforce. For example, by default, one of the fields on the contact object may include an email field. These fields cannot be deleted, but can be customized. Custom fields are fields that you would create. For example, your organization may consider creating a color field for their contacts. Custom fields can be deleted and can be added to both standard and custom objects. Leverage standard fields as much as you can, but your organization may want to consider creating custom fields when 1. There isn't an existing standard field that represents that data on any of the objects in your instance, or 2. There is a specific piece of data that is valuable to the related object that can be captured that needs to be standardized in some way. As an administrator, use discretion when creating fields and when deciding which users may want to see certain information. To create a custom field, you'll have to navigate to the object you'd like to add the field to in Object Manager or Schema Builder in the setup, and go to the Related Fields and Relationships page. I'll be showing how to create a custom field called EIN, so we can capture EINs for our accounts. To create this field, we'll go to Object Manager since it provides additional settings that are useful. Select the account object, and then click on Fields and Relationships. Select New. With step 1, we'll need to determine and select the appropriate custom field. For an EIN, the number custom field type is most appropriate, so I'll click on that. Click Next. You may want to also consult with Salesforce's help guide on the varied custom field types so that you can determine the best field type. Keep in mind that though you can change the data type in the future for a custom field, data loss may occur. Once you arrive at step 2, follow the prompt and make sure that the required information is completed. Your page may look different depending on the custom field type you selected. If the field you're creating is something you do not want to be added to existing custom reports, don't forget to deselect the Auto Add to Custom Report Type checkbox before selecting Next. Step 3 is where you'll set field level security. As a refresher, the following securities are set per profile. First, if both boxes are selected, the field is read-only. If the visible box is only selected, these users have the ability to edit the field. 3, if neither box is selected, this will be a hidden field for that user. And finally, there is no instance where only read-only will be checked off. For a more expanded explanation of field level security, I recommend checking out Salesforce's security guide on the subject. For this example, I'll be leaving the selections as is and hit Next. And finally, we can add the field to specific page layouts. I'll be leaving this as is, but you can deselect on any layouts you don't want them on. Select Save, and it will take you back to the Fields and Relationships page. You'll see that our new field was created by scrolling down on the Accounts page. And with that, we've now created a custom field. As always, don't forget to use a sandbox before deploying it into production. Like any database, there are relationships that happen between objects that are interrelated. In Salesforce, there are 2 main types of relationships, a master detail and a lookup. These relationships often determine how information is shared and passed in the forms of different types of fields, summaries, and more. A master detail relationship is a strongly coupled relationship where a child object, in Salesforce called a detail, must be associated with a parent object, in Salesforce called the master. This means that if the parent record is deleted, the child records will also be deleted. Keep in mind that they're defined between custom objects or between a standard object and a custom object. A lookup relationship is a loosely coupled relationship between a child object and a parent object. In this instance, if the parent record is deleted, the child record can still exist because the lookup relationships are independent of each other. These object relationships are a bit tricky, but let's walk through creating those different relationships so you can better understand how they interact. Let's create a master detailed relationship with a custom object called project and their standard object account. From the object manager, search and select the project object. Navigate to Fields and Relationships and hit New. Select Master Detail Relationship before hitting Next. For step 2, you need to relate it to the object. We'll select Account with the drop-down and hit Next. For step 3, I'll be entering in information accordingly. Hit Next. For steps 4 to 6, we'll keep it as is. Just make sure to hit Next to continue, and then finally, save when you're done. You should now see the field in your project object. You'll also notice the data type is a master detail. Now we'll create a lookup relationship field. For this example, we will have a field called Location in the project that will look for values from the Locations object. Like we did for the master detail relationship, click on New in Fields and Relationships and select the lookup relationship data type. For step 2, select Location and then continue with the wizard like we did for master detail until you've saved. Master detail and lookup are the most common relationships you'll find in Salesforce. However, there are 4 other types of relationships: many-to-many, external lookup, indirect lookup, and hierarchical relationships. Feel free to pause for a brief review. You can get an expanded view of these types of relationships by visiting the Object Relationships Overview page on Salesforce Help, and learn more about other considerations that can be made for your new master detail and lookup fields. Page layouts in Salesforce allow you to customize the organization of your record details, whether it be fields, related lists, custom links, detail pages, and edit pages. You can also determine if the field should be visible, read-only, or required. Page layouts should not be used as a way to shortcut restricting access to fields. Looking at a record in Salesforce, you can see the components mentioned in the page layout as it falls under the Detail and Activity tab, Related Lists, as well as Chatter. Let's first review how to create a page layout. The quickest way to create a new page layout is when navigating to the specific object you're interested in creating. We'll do account in this case. Select the gear icon at the top right and click on Edit Object. This will take you to the management settings for the object. Select Page Layouts. Click New. You'll see an option to select an existing page layout, which is helpful if you don't want to create your layout from scratch. Now just enter a name appropriate for a new page layout. You'll notice that you also have the option to create a feed-based layout, which will allow you to have a tab called Feed, in addition to your detail feed. To learn more about feed-based layouts, you can check out Salesforce's help overview on the topic. Once you click Save, you'll be redirected to the page layout editor, and you can now modify the page by dragging fields, buttons, and more onto the page. At the top from left to right, you'll see a Save button, Quick Save, and Preview As. Preview As is a pretty helpful tool if at any point you'd like to preview your page as one of the profiles. The Quick Save button allows you to save but stay in the page layout editor. I've now made the changes to what I need on this page, so I'll go ahead and click on Save. Now that I've made the changes that I wanted for my page layout, I now need to assign the page layout to one of the many user profiles. To do this, just click Page Layout Assignments on the page layout setting for your object. You'll now select Edit Assignment and follow the prompt. Hit Save when you're done. Keep in mind that for objects that have multiple record types, you'll also need to assign different layouts based on the profile for each record type. Now let's review how to make a change to a page layout. First, navigate to the object's page layouts. Choose the page layout that you'd like to edit. And like before, you can drag the quick actions, buttons, fields, and more into the page. Don't forget to hit Save to ensure your changes were made like before. As an administrator, one of the most common issues can be users not being able to see page layout changes or seeing a page layout for a profile not suited for them. When that occurs, you'll always want to validate that the field level security settings are set to visible. As always, with the creation of a new page layout or an update to a page layout, it's always a great idea to pop into a record and validate if the changes were made by refreshing the page or checking if they were saved. You're now ready to create, edit, and even troubleshoot page layout changes. Custom tabs show custom objects or web-embedded content in your Salesforce apps. There are 5 different types of custom tabs, which provide context for what information can be found by selecting the tab. Tabs can be done in 2 different ways. The first instance is when you're setting up your new custom object. Make sure that you check the checkbox at the very bottom of the screen saying Launch New Custom Tab Wizard, and follow the prompt to update your new custom object tab from there. It will have the object dropdown already selected. The second instance is by going to the tabs in the Setup Quick Find search. This is usually what you would navigate to first if the content or object was already created without the tab. You should now see a list of possible tabs that you can create. You can create a custom object, web, interface, Lightning component, and Lightning page tabs, so long as you have the content to refer it to. I'll select the new next to custom object tabs and complete the wizard accordingly. make sure that you selected the object dropdown. And now with that saved, I can now see the new custom tab I just created. As an admin, you may get a request to remove or update the tabs that display at the top of an app, which in this case is the Sales app. Navigate to App Manager in the Setup Quick Find. Next, you'll want to look for the Sales Lightning app row and click on the down button and click Edit. We're now in the Lightning App Builder app settings. Select the navigation items. You'll find two different lists, one showing the full list of all available tabs you could add, and the right showing what is currently selected on the page. Use the arrows to add and remove the items needed, and once you're done, you'll just hit Save to make the changes. The changes should be reflected when I go back to the Sales app. You can also rename most standard tabs and objects, as well as your custom objects. To rename a standard tab or object, like our case, navigate to Rename Tabs and Labels in Setup. On this page, you'll see a list of the standard and custom tabs you can rename the tab and label. We'll edit Assets for this example. Once selected, go ahead and update the label. I can go ahead and hit Save immediately, but I also have the option to update the standard field labels associated with the object, so I'll go ahead and hit Next. After a bit of a preview, I'll go ahead and hit Save at this time, but if I wanted to make any of the changes, I can go ahead and fill them out in this form. And with that, we've now learned how to create and update custom tabs. One of the best ways to promote efficiency for your users is by customizing your pages to reflect what is most pertinent to them. In this video, we'll cover how to do this by customizing your homepage and other Lightning record pages. Let's say that your teams don't find it helpful for users to see the quarterly performance when they first log in, but you'd like to replace it with another component like items to approve. Let's make these changes to the Sales app. We can navigate to the Lightning App Builder by clicking on the gear cog icon on the homepage and selecting the Edit Page option. When the page opens, you'll see your homepage and on the left column, a list of components. You can drag and drop these components to sections of the page where it turns green. You'll also see at the very top of the page a Shrink to View dropdown. As you work, if you have trouble zooming, just click on the dropdown and click on 100% option instead of the manual zoom on your browser. On the right column, you'll find the page label information, which you can update. I recommend creating a homepage label and description so it's easier to track. On the page, you can click on the plus between sections to add a new component, or click the 4-arrowed icon and drag it to your preferred location. We identified earlier that we wanted to delete the performance component, which we can do by hovering over the specific component and clicking on the trash icon. I'll go ahead and add the items to approve component onto the page. When you've made the changes you'd like to make, click Save. If your organization is new to custom Lightning pages, you'll see the activation pop up automatically. Keep in mind that if it isn't, you'll just have to click on the activation manually. This is where you apply the app and profile default settings. You have the option to set the newly updated homepage as the organizational default and assign the appropriate apps and the specific apps and profiles by following the wizard. Don't forget to hit Save when you're done. In addition to creating home pages, we can also create and update record pages. Navigate to Lightning App Builder in Setup, click New, and click on Record Page. You'll go ahead and hit Next and follow the prompt accordingly. For record pages, you'll just need to select the relevant object before continuing to the Lightning App Builder, and once done, make sure to save and follow the same prompts as before. At any time you need to make an update to a page, you can also just select the label on this list and go from there. As you can see, there are quite a few variations of how to get to the necessary settings, but ultimately, keeping user experience in mind is what you really need to enable easy access to information across the organization. Good luck! Custom buttons and links can streamline actions with external URLs, applications, or systems. These custom buttons and links are added to object records. There are 3 types of custom buttons and links to consider. 1. Detail page link, which creates a link under the Links section on an object record page. 2. Detail page button, which creates a button in the action menu in the Highlights panel of a record. Or 3. List button, which creates a button as a related list item on an object record page. As always, before proceeding with making changes, be sure to consider potential limitations and best practices. You can find those listed via Salesforce's help in the titled Custom Button and Link Considerations page. I recommend consulting with a developer before proceeding with any more advanced buttons, like New Visual Force Page or Advanced JavaScript Querying. To create a custom button or link, you'll need to navigate to the management settings of your object of choice via the Object Manager. Let's review a contact object, for example. Once at the contact object, you'll select the buttons, links, and actions, and then click New Button or Link. Now it's time to enter in your custom button or link edit details. If you're newer to creating buttons or links, check out the Quick Tips section on the top right. Since we're creating a button on the detail page that navigates to the Two Trees company URL, we'll select the detail page button. Before I can proceed, I've kept the same behavior and content source as is, since I want the link I entered to display in a new window. Now we can just copy our URL here. Before you save, make sure to check the syntax by clicking on the Check Syntax button at the bottom of the page. Since we have no errors, I'll go ahead and click Save. Now that I've saved, I've created my new custom detail page link. However, I need to make sure it's added to a page layout. To do so, I'll navigate to the page layouts, select the layout of choice, and now I need to drag the specific button or custom link to my page layout. Because we created a detail page button, I'll go to Buttons, navigate to the Button section of my page, and select the new custom button to drag to the correct section. For custom detail page links, you'll need to drag your button from the Custom Links section and drag it to the Custom Links section. For list buttons, you'll need to navigate to your related object's page layout of choice, scroll down to the appropriate related list, click on the wrench icon, and then expand the button section so you can add the button. Click on Save when you're done. If you need this button on multiple page layouts, you may have to repeat this step. Custom buttons and links are a great way to reduce clicks, so work with users to identify what their repetitive tasks are. As a final tip, always be mindful of entering correct URL links. Good luck! To measure an organization's progress while working on a number of opportunities and more, Salesforce uses Stages, which shows the steps that sales teams and related team members use to close deals or interactions. Salesforce defines these specific stages as the sales processes. These are displayed as a field on the record. Users generally operate better with visualizations, which is where leveraging paths come in. Salesforce paths display a record's progress at specific stages using a chevron visualization. You can find a full list of the objects available. You can enable Path Store, along with other relevant information like guidelines here. Before you customize your sales processes and paths, be sure that you've worked closely with your users to better determine and define the different stages. You will need to find relevant pieces of information in each step in the process, how different users may navigate through their different stages, and identify the stages themselves along with a definition that works across different user groups. Once you've done that, you're ready to proceed. We'll first begin by creating a sales process first, since paths build off of that. To get started, navigate to Sales Processes in the Quick Find box. I have not created any sales processes in my organization, so I have a blank list, but your organization may have more defined processes. Click on New to begin. On the sales process page, you'll keep the existing sales process dropdown as is and enter the name and description of the new sales process you're creating. Once you're done, hit Save. Next, you'll want to select and deselect relevant stage values for your organization. Once you're done, hit Save. Now we need to make sure you've created record types corresponding to your sales processes before creating our paths. To do this, navigate to the opportunity in Object Manager and then click on Record Types. Click New and follow the wizard. Be sure that in the wizard that you've selected the new process you've created and the sales process dropdown. I'll go ahead and complete the rest of the wizard and hit Save. With the new sales process created, we're now ready to set up paths. But first, let's make sure that we've enabled paths. Go to the Path Settings and Setup and click on the large green Enable button. Click on the New Path button display once it's enabled. For step 1, make sure to enter in all relevant information such as the object, record type, as well as the pick list. Don't forget for the pick list option to select Stage. Click Next. For step 2, there are 2 sections to keep in mind: the fields and the guidance for success. You'll need to drag the fields that you want users to see by clicking the Add and Update Fields link. And for guidance for success, this provides the user with additional text and guidance information on what defines the stage. Make sure to click on the relevant information for each of the stages. When you're done, click Next. You now have the option to activate your path or enable confetti when it reaches its final stage. Just add the relevant pick list value and frequency. For now, we'll activate the path and hit Finish. You've now customized a sales path, which will now enable better capturing of information, but also support user adoption efforts for your organization. The progression of these opportunities may vary across industries, so being able to capture stages that make sense to your users is best in measuring progress and adding better pipeline estimations. Salesforce's runtime is able to perform well because of the caching that's done on the client, i.e. Chrome, Safari, etc. But sometimes for admins and developers, it can cause issues when we make changes to the environment. Caching is enabled by default. Typically, the first thing to confirm outside of the permissions is to just make sure you've cleared the cache on your browser. When troubleshooting and clearing the browser doesn't work, you may just need to temporarily disable caching for your Salesforce org, so it'll affect all users. To disable caching in Salesforce, go to the Setup and search for Session. Click on Session Settings. Once there, scroll to the Caching section. Under Caching, deselect Enable Secure and Persistent Browser Caching to improve performance. And scroll down to the bottom and hit Save. When changes have been made or users are experiencing latency on mobile, you'll have to instruct them to clear the cache on their mobile device. Disabling the cache is not always the most immediate alternative, so always check if you have updated your page layouts and confirm the permissions before proceeding with these cache solutions. Global Quick Actions, one of the 2 types of quick actions, enable Salesforce users to more easily navigate, resulting in a smoother workflow. Global Quick Actions invoke defined functionalities from Lightning components, flows, visual force pages, and more on any object. Examples of global actions are actions like logging a call, creating a record, and so on. Global actions are not related to any specific record. Salesforce does come with out-of-box actions, but you can also create custom global quick actions. Before we review how they're created, pause the video to quickly review some best practices and considerations. You can learn more about the other limitations and considerations for all types of quick actions on the Salesforce help page. So let's create a custom global action. From Setup, we'll navigate to Global Actions in Quick Find. You'll see a list of the standard global actions, but at this time, we'll click New Action. Now that we're on the Action Information page, let's fill in details for a global action that creates a new work order record. We'll keep the action type as Create a Record, make work order the target object, and complete the rest of the information. When you're done, don't forget to save. If you need a more expanded review of what action type to select, I recommend reviewing Salesforce's help page. Now that we've saved, we need to add some fields to our global actions record list. I'll go ahead and put the fields onto the canvas by dragging. When we're done, we'll hit Save again. Now that we've saved our new global actions, we need to add it to the publisher layout. To do so, navigate to Publisher Layouts in Quick Find. I'll go ahead and click Edit for our global layout since I want all users to have access to the global action. I'll now go ahead and drag my new global action to the Global Publisher box. You'll also notice, in addition to the classic publisher, you can override the actions from mobile and Lightning at the bottom of the page. But I'll keep it as is and hit Save. At this time, you should now see the new global quick action in your Salesforce environment. With that, you're now equipped to customize global quick actions for both mobile and Lightning experience. Quick actions enable Salesforce users to more easily navigate the tool, resulting in a smoother workflow and invoke defined functionalities from Lightning components, flows, visual force pages, and more. We'll be reviewing object-specific quick actions. Object-specific quick actions are invoked functionalities that are related to a specific object. So when creating an object-specific quick action, whatever target object you use must already have an established parent-child or lookup relationship to the host object. For example, if I am on a specific object like accounts, I can select an action that would create a contact for that account with a specified account lookup filled in. Salesforce does come with out-of-the-box actions, but you can also create custom quick actions. Actions can be seen on a record page, on the assistant of the homepage, Chatter, and on the Salesforce mobile app. Please review best practices and considerations to ensure that the users are getting the most out of their quick actions. You can also check out quick action limitations on the Salesforce help page. Let's go ahead and create a custom object-specific quick action. First, let's navigate to an object settings. We can create the action by going to the Buttons, Links, and Actions section and clicking on New Action. Now, enter in the action information. I'll create a new record type of action for this example and fill in the necessary information. Be mindful that the record type by default is master, but if you have specific record types for the object, make sure to have those selected. When you're done, hit Save. You'll now see an action page. This is what will be shown when you select the quick action. You can add or remove fields accordingly by dragging the fields both on and off the screen. When you're done, click Save again. Before the users can see quick actions, though, now they need to be added to the page. Navigate to the Page Layout section in your object settings. Now go ahead and select a page layout. And once you've selected the layout, you can drag or remove the quick action button to the publisher box. I'll keep it as is and hit Save. You should now see the new quick action in your Salesforce environment. If at any point you created a quick action and it does not display on your page, be sure to double check that it's been added to the correct layout or publisher. Between the classic publisher and the mobile app, the possibilities are endless with quick actions for your objects. Don't forget that when troubleshooting, keep the user's read and edit permissions on the actions relationship field in mind. Assignment and escalation rules are used to automate business processes and make it easier to organize support and lead workflows. Assignment rules are specific conditions detailed to determine how a case or lead may get assigned. Escalation rules, on the other hand, define the specific conditions that may determine how cases get escalated after a predefined time. These rules can be assigned to users or user queues, which is a group of users. Let's go over how to update lead assignment rules. Case assignment and escalation rules follow similar prompts, so the following steps can be repeated for those rules. Let's go ahead and create a lead assignment rule for all sales agents. First, navigate to Lead Assignment Rules in Setup. Click New. Once you see the new lead assignment rule page, enter in a rule name. You'll see an active button on the page underneath the text box, but I recommend activating it later so we can add the rule entries before it shows in production. Hit Save. To add the rule entries to your new rule, click on the rule name. Now that we're on the sales agents rule, we need to add rule entries. The rule entries section is where the specific criteria are added to route leads. Click on New to create a rule entry. The first step to creating your rule entry is by setting the sort order. We'll start with 1 for now, but we can change this at a later time. Next, you have to set the criteria for this rule entry. Use the dropdown if you want the rule to run if the criteria is met, or if a formula evaluates as true. The Step 2 prompt may change depending on the dropdown section. For this example, I'll be running the rule if the lead state is California, so I'll update the row with the state province field, equals operator, and CA value. If I want to add additional logic to the rule, I can select the Add Filter Logic link right under the list of rows. I don't need filter logic at this time, so I'll click Clear Filter Logic. For the final step, I now just need to assign a user or a queue of the assignment by selecting one of the dropdowns, and then search for the specific user or user queue by clicking on the Lookup Magnifying Glass. I recommend setting up your user queues before creating your assignment rules. Click Save when you're done. You can repeat the previous steps to add entries until you've made all the changes needed. If at any point you need to change the order, click on the Reorder button in the Rules Entries section. You can also click on the Edit or Delete links for each of the rule entries as needed. Once you're ready to activate your rule, click on the Edit button next to the rule detail and select the active checkbox before saving. All of your rule entries and their orders can be adjusted in the future as your organization changes, but there are limitations, which you can learn more about on the Salesforce help page. If your organization has complex territory management, you may want to consider leveraging enterprise territory management settings first, which you can enable by going to the territory settings in Setup. Setting up assignment and escalation rules makes it easier to take out menial work and ensures that users can continue their work without waiting to be assigned leads and cases. One of the main reasons that companies use Salesforce is to manage their leads and opportunities. Leads are objects that store unqualified prospect information and help ensure accountability across the organization. There are a few features that a lead record can show. First, the Activity tab, which can be leveraged to log calls, events, and email the contact using email templates. You can even use Chatter to collaborate with those in your organization about a specific contact, which ensures that there is visibility of the information for those who need it. A typical use case for creating a lead is when your sales team comes back from a conference and believes in a potential opportunity. Users can create their own leads by going to the lead object and clicking on New, or by clicking on one of the New Leads global quick actions. Lead creation doesn't have to be manually done either. Your organization could do a data import of a list of contacts via the import wizard or data loader, leverage App Exchange apps, or use webbed leads, which you can use pre-existing pages on your company's website. You can learn more about leveraging webbed leads via the Salesforce help page. If users have the necessary permissions, they can also edit or delete those records from the list view by clicking on the drop-down of the row. When leads become qualified, they get converted into a contact and associated account. An associated opportunity may also be created. Lead conversions cannot be undone, so if the information is converted, you may also have to create a lead again, which is a data integrity risk. When you've reached the final stage and you're ready to convert your lead, click on the Convert Action button on the record or the Select Converted Status when you've reached the final stages. Encourage your mobile users to convert leads when on desktop, since the mobile app does not allow you to select existing opportunities for your new account or contact. You also can't merge leads or utilize the Find Duplicates buttons on mobile either. When you hit Convert, you'll see a page where you can select to create a new account, contact, and opportunity, or use existing ones. Just complete the information by selecting the dropdowns in each section. As a refresher, opportunities are the object used to track deals in progress. In most instances, you're converting a lead. There's likely a new deal in the works. However, there is an exception. If there are users that are simply trying to ensure that the person that's listed as a lead was already recorded as a contact, you may also just want to convert a lead to a contact account without an opportunity. This is when you'll want to select the Don't create an opportunity upon conversion checkbox. I'd like to keep it as is, so I'll go ahead and hit Convert at this time. Congratulations, you've just converted a lead. You'll be greeted with a confirmation window showing the account, contact, and opportunity record. Leads and opportunities offer you a very intuitive way to track your prospects separately from accounts and contacts. With your new expertise, you can now help support better lead management in your organization. Account and contact objects allow your teams to track existing relationships with your organization, which makes them the most important objects to be mindful of as an administrator. An account refers to all the information related to a company or one-person company. This may include things like their address, their industry, website, and more. There are two types of accounts, business and person accounts. Business accounts store information about the companies your org does business with. Person accounts are not enabled by default, but account for one-person companies like home healthcare or lawn care services. Be mindful that once person accounts are enabled, you cannot disable them again. When querying reports, it may require pulling fields from both the account and contact objects, can cause friction in resolving bug issues and updates, and make it more difficult to leverage certain AppExchange apps. You can learn more about other considerations for leveraging person accounts and how to enable them on Salesforce Help. To better manage your accounts, you can also go to Account Settings in Setup to display account hierarchy links, enable related news, automate suggested company information for reps to select, and even display account logos. For organizations that may have multiple offices and have different relationships amongst each other, you may want to link them up to a parent account, which could allow you to distinctly relate all of the accounts under one major account. This is where a hierarchy comes in. To view an account's hierarchy, click on the Accounts tab and select on the specific record, and click on the hierarchy icon next to the account name. When you click on the different records, you'll notice that the parent account doesn't have a parent account field filled in, while the child accounts do. For companies that have multiple office locations, it may be helpful to leverage the Account Site field, which tells you additional information about the account's location, for example, a branch location, a work site, and so on. In Salesforce, the individual people that are affiliated with the account or person account are stored as contacts. Like accounts, you can also view activity, chatter, and other details on the record. You can learn more about how to set up a single contact record with multiple accounts in the Salesforce Help article. For general account and contact management, users with the necessary permissions or ownership can create, edit, and delete account or contact records directly by clicking the New, Edit, and Delete buttons respectively from the list view. Don't forget that if you delete a parent account, any children records or related contacts will be deleted. Salesforce will also catch duplicate records by warning you during the creation process or by reviewing the duplicate records section to identify if there is a potential duplicate or not. You can learn more about managing duplicate records for an expanded view on Salesforce's help page. If at any point you need to make a large data change to your accounts and contacts, you could leverage tools like Import Wizard, Data Loader, and App Exchange apps. Accounts and contacts are the pillars to managing your existing engagements, so having an expanded understanding of these objects enables you to best support account and contact management and improve your productivity. As a Salesforce admin, you can configure a shared calendar for your company that can help your teams organize meetings and events. You can see your full calendar by going to the calendar object. By default, the Today's Event Lightning component will be enabled on your homepage so that users can see what's going on their agenda for the day and go to their calendar by clicking on View My Calendar. They can also see events related to specific records or chatter feeds. An activity report can also be created to view events owned by subordinate team members, which managers also find helpful in identifying engagements that their team are pursuing. Now let's create an event. Go to your calendar and select on the New Event button at the top right and enter in your information. You can also relate your event to contact and account records. Hit Save when you're done. You'll notice by the default, only My Events display on my calendar. If your organization has an interest in creating calendars that are specific to departments or other organizational groups, you can create public calendars that can be shared. To set these up, go to your Setup and from Quick Find search, click and select Public Calendars and Resources. From there, in the first box named Public Calendars, click on the New button. You'll be prompted to enter in the name of the calendar that you want to use. You can activate the calendar, but for now, I'll save without doing so. You'll be redirected to the specific calendar that you just created. To put in the parameters of who will have access to the calendar, click on the Sharing button. You'll be greeted with a user and group sharing page. You'll see a blank list, but as you add users in public groups, you'll see records display. Click on Add. As you can see, you can use the drop-down to query the type of public groups, roles and subordinates, and users, along with specific keywords if needed. Use the left and right Add, Remove buttons to add users to the list. As you add users, you can only set one calendar access for them. So if you have groups or users that have varying calendar access needs, you'll have to hit Save and click Add again for a new round of users to share the calendar with. Now that I'm done with adding users, I'd like to go ahead and activate my shared calendar so others can see it. I'll click on the calendar hyperlink underneath the name of my newly created shared calendar. Click Edit, and then select the Active checkbox. Now that I've saved my changes, I'd like to add my new shared calendar to my view. To do so, click on the gear cog right next to Other Calendars, select Add Calendars, and go ahead and search and add the new calendar we just created. In an instance that you're interested in sharing your events calendar with a specific person, you may want to share your calendar. Underneath My Calendars, select the calendar of choice, in this case, My Events, and click Share Calendars. You can enter in the names that you'd like to share your calendar with. If a name does not appear here, it's likely that they do not have access to do so. Hit Share when you're done. Just like we did earlier, you can add events in the same way between your calendars and other calendars. Using events and calendars to track meetings with customers, prospects, and other colleagues to related records can be a powerful tool to ensure that time is spent wisely on building relationships and identifying the behaviors that indicate success. Calendars are mostly managed between teams, but knowing where to begin is always helpful. Salesforce campaigns can be a great tool for tracking marketing initiatives and can relate those efforts to leads, contacts, accounts, tasks, activities, and files. A marketing team may use campaigns to track email, direct mail, and even in-person connections to track them against KPIs like lead conversion rates that the team is set up for. Sales teams will generally leverage campaigns to keep up with their progress as they nurture connections. Most organizations usually work with Sales and Service Cloud features. However, if your organization also uses Marketing Cloud or Pardot, your capabilities will vary. Marketing Cloud emphasizes on the customer journey. Pardot emphasizes on engagement, whereas the Sales Cloud's campaign functionalities focus on a more narrow portion of the customer journey. Single email sending is still available, regardless of if it was in Sales or Marketing Cloud, so all of the features mentioned here you'll come across. Campaigns can be accessed via the campaign object by going to the app launcher. Like other records, you can see detailed information about your previous and current campaign efforts. On the Related tab, you'll also see the Campaign Members section, which includes Add Leads and Add Contact Quick Actions, which allows you to include new and existing leads and contacts in your org to a campaign for tracking. In addition to campaign members, you may also want to consider using one of the related objects called Campaign Hierarchy. Like an account hierarchy, you can use a different type of hierarchy to allow tracking several campaigns to an overarching campaign. Parent campaigns will have the campaign hierarchy, but the children campaigns will not. So if you want to identify the relationship, be sure that on a child campaign, you also click on the parent campaign field and navigate to the campaign hierarchy related object. Before creating campaigns, always consider what your objective metrics are and work with the necessary stakeholders to make sure you're making the most out of the campaigns. Salesforce has a great worksheet that you can find on Salesforce Help. To create a campaign, you can select the new quick action on the campaigns object and enter in the necessary details like budgets and more. Don't forget to check the active checkbox if the campaign is ongoing. Once you hit save, you'll be navigated to the new object you just created. Campaigns are helpful in creating more tactical documentation of sales and marketing efforts, but it's up to you as a Salesforce admin to enable those efforts by thinking of the business's goals and processes. One of the reasons your organization may want to use email templates is so that when emails are sent out from your company, you can elevate your brand through a consistent use of communication. Email templates can be created for a group of users or even for private use. Let's first review how to create an email template from the email template object. On the email templates object, you'll see a list of the existing email templates, but the list may vary depending on the user's permissions, so keep that in mind if you're troubleshooting. To create an email template, click on the New Email Template action. You'll want to enter the template and subject name and add a related entity type and folder location to make it easier to access based on where the email template can be stored, if it's in public or private use. Your email template can also leverage enhanced letterheads, which is optional, but allows a more standard header and footer of your email, but does seldom require HTML knowledge for adding styling. Learn more about those from Salesforce's help guide on enhanced letterheads. Merging fields for email templates can save you a lot of trouble drafting the same types of emails all the time, so you may want to consider using merged fields. If you're entering in message content that requires merging fields from Salesforce, click on the 2 curly brackets icon in the bottom right of the source and select the field you want to use. When you're done, click Save. You'll be navigated to your new template. So long as you have permission to, you can edit, clone, and delete this template. You can also create email templates by composing your email when in Email Composer and clicking on the notepad icon under the box, third to the left, called Insert, Create, and Update Template, and clicking on the Save as New Template option, which will give you a chance to name and save your new email template. To use one of your templates, go to the Email Composer from a record And before drafting your email, click on the Insert, Create, and Update Template button, and click on the Insert a Template option. Just click on the template name that you'd like to use and click Insert under the Override Current Email warning. If you're a more advanced admin, you can always leverage HTML to make more stylized email templates. Consult with your organization's dev or learn more HTML tags by visiting Salesforce Help. As you can see, email templates over time can make it especially easier to speed up your workflow and create more efficient communication with your customers and users. Queues can be used to prioritize, distribute, and assign records for different teams to share workloads. You can use queues to manage everything from case, lead, task, order queues, and more. Administrators can configure queues by adding specific individuals manually or basing it on the user's role, roles and subordinates, or on specific public groups. Let's create a new queue. At Setup, navigate to Queue, and select the New button. Enter a label and queue name. Let's call this our Sales Rep Leads queue. I'll leave the queue email field blank, but I could associate an email with a group of users so that all users of a queue receive an email notification. For the next section, I'll just add leads to the queue for now, but you can add any other selected objects. For the queue members section, you can add users, roles and subordinates, or specific public groups by using the search and the related dropdowns. A great tip for queues is to avoid using individual users' names if they change frequently for the queue assignment. You may have to make sure that your users are assigned to the correct public role. This is also the first place to check if a user is not part of the correct queue. Let's go ahead and save our queue. You'll be redirected to the queues page. You can always edit or delete this queue at a later date. Now that we've reviewed what's needed to create the queue, what are the ways that records get assigned to the queues? There are three main ways. They're automated through lead and case assignment rules, they're assigned manually on a specific record, or they're updated records via a mass transfer record, data loader, or other related data update tools. In a nutshell, Salesforce queues allow your organization to manage and share the workloads by also automating the prioritization, distribution, and general record assignments of users. You can have as many queues as you'd like, but when optimizing correctly, it can improve speed and efficiency for your organization without the overwhelm. Price books are used to help sales teams track key details of specific product deals and sales, whether they are items or services. The advantage of leveraging a price book is so that you can add the right products to the correct opportunities in Salesforce. There are two types of price books, standard and custom. Put simply, the standard price book is the master list of all products and services your organization offers and serves as the standard pricing or baseline. If your organization needs more tailored pricing, you'll most likely need to leverage custom price books more. The price book is the object used to maintain a list of products and their associated prices. You can find your organization's price books by going to App Launcher and searching for the item directly. You'll see all of them in your organization, but when selected directly, get the basic details. To create a new price book, standard or custom, you'll go to the price book object and in the list view, select New. Follow the prompt accordingly, and don't forget to select the check marks where applicable before saving. Products are what make up the price book and are not exclusive to one price book and can even be listed as different currencies under one price book. You can go to the Products object in App Launcher to view product records. To create a new product, you'll navigate to your product list view and select New. Update the field accordingly and hit Save. You'll also notice that in the Related tab of the product, you can also add the standard pricing first, enter in additional details, and then once added, continue to Add to Price Book. Price book entries are a junction object that will actually store the price of the item or service, since your organization may potentially sell the same item using different pricing or currencies. You'll find these entries by navigating to a specific price book and clicking on the Related tab. As you can see, I have a number of products under the Price Book Entries object, which tells me that there are a number of products underneath this price book. With the creation of different products and price books, your sales reps will likely add them to different opportunities from the products. If your organization needs to update a large number of products and price books at once, you'll want to use Data Loader or other import tools. There are a lot more considerations to identifying the best configurations for your organization's price books and products. I highly recommend visiting the Salesforce help documentation, especially for those that have implemented more complex pricing and offer consumption-based services and products like product schedules. Being able to list and document your services and products accurately will help reduce data inaccuracies and be a more accurate measure of your organization's revenue growth and contribute to more opportunities turning into deals. Good luck. Collaborative forecasting makes it easier for leaders and their teams to predict their expected sales revenue using visuals. Forecasts need to be enabled by administrators, but will require customer support to be turned off. When you're ready to enable it, navigate to your setup and search and click on Forecast Settings in the Quick Find search. Click on the Enable Forecast toggle. There are 3 different forecast types, which, depending on what you select, provide your team with a specific measurement that best fits your team's goals. The 3 are Opportunity, Opportunity Product, and Opportunity Split. If you're not sure which forecast type best fits for your organization, I recommend checking out Salesforce's help page on the topic. These forecast types may use one of the following measurements: revenue, quantity, custom currency or quantity, or an identified user role or territory. Before setting up your forecast type, you may want to set up your forecast hierarchy, which can be found in Quick Find, or have the product families of your products entered in so that the forecast types roll up correctly once the forecast types are created. Once you've determined what best fits your organization for forecasting, click on the Create a Forecast Type button in the Available Forecast Types section on your forecast settings page. By default, you may see Opportunity activated when the forecast was enabled. You can also make adjustments like showing quotas on the bottom of the page. At any point, you can edit or deactivate your forecast types by clicking on the drop-down next to a forecast type. For a demo on how to navigate a collaborative forecast, check out the Collaborative Forecast demo video, which you can find from the Collaborative Forecast Salesforce help page. Some of the more common pitfalls when it comes to forecasting generally comes with certain users not being enabled or changed based on the forecast hierarchies, certain deals being shown under different users, and certain dates being filtered out. So keep these factors in mind when troubleshooting for your users. If at any point you are looking for details on a forecast implementation, I highly recommend Salesforce's Collaborative Forecast Implementation Guide that you can find on Salesforce's help page under Sales Administration. Leveraging collaborative forecasting is not exclusive to just certain milestones in a quarter, but should be a continued thing to monitor as you manage your teams. Holistically, you want to make sure that while growth is occurring, you're supporting the sales leaders in their sales territory management efforts using data-driven information. Reports and dashboards can provide your organization with great real-time data that can be used to measure your company's progress. Let's start with the basics of reports. You can access reports by going to the Reports object. Click the New Report Action button. The Salesforce Report Builder is where users create reports, add filters, and define the fields to display, which can be shared publicly or used for individual use. There are standard reports. These cannot be modified, but you can also create custom report types, which admins and users with permissions can create. There are 4 types of reports that you can create in Salesforce, which may impact how your report queries data: tabular, summary, matrix, and joined. You can find the exhaustive list of built-in report types and their details on Salesforce Help. I also recommend checking out Salesforce's guide on creating custom report types. Creating a new report is as simple as clicking on the New Report Action button, selecting the report type, click Start Report, and then selecting the type of information that you want displayed using fields, groupings, and filters. To best streamline your effectiveness in your processes, it's important to follow some best practices for your organization. First, create some canned reports that can help users get to the baseline of what they need so they can clone it and customize to individual or team likings. Second, administrators should take the time to train their users on the basics of creating, managing, and supporting reports and their related folders. One thing that especially sticks out is teaching users the differences between save and save as, and showing users how to create their own private reports. Third, establish a naming convention for your files early. This could help avoid duplication of reports that display similar information. And finally, over time, you'll discover reports that are not getting much use. I encourage you to archive them to keep the data clean. Dashboards, on the other hand, are a more graphical representation of one or more summary and matrix reports. You can access dashboards by going to the dashboard object. There are a number of dashboard component types, but these are the most common: table, chart, gauge, and metric. You could also use a visual force page or custom S control to add to your dashboard, but this has additional complexities. Make note that one dashboard can have up to 20 components. Let's review some best practices for dashboards. First, like reports, you may want to set up a few dashboards to get the team started. Secondly, when creating dashboards, you'll need to ensure that the users you want to manage dashboards and the users that the dashboards have a runtime user on have the necessary permissions. If you clone dashboards over time, you'll also want to make sure that all of your reports have the correct runtime user and that the user has access to the dashboard folder. Third, review the refresh dates and times of your dashboards. You can refresh your dashboard at any time, but depending on your license, the number of dashboard refreshes you get in a day are limited, so use them sparingly. You can contact your Salesforce rep to learn more. And finally, like reports, you'll want to establish a naming convention across the organization and archive old dashboards. As reports and dashboards are created, you may bump into issues over time. Here are the most common things I look for when troubleshooting reports and dashboards. First, reports and dashboard views may vary depending on the user or running user's access to specific folders, objects, and/or fields, so ask questions about what your user is looking for and review their permissions. Second, sometimes despite your efforts to report, there can be missing or inconsistent record data. You may have to work with your users directly to identify the records with missing details so users can create more complete data. Third, sometimes insufficient reports and dashboards can be caused by not having the right data points in hand or having difficulty locating the information. Work with teams to identify the best fit. For more tips on troubleshooting reports and dashboards, check out Salesforce's Help Guide. Salesforce's reports and dashboards have limits. However, by reevaluating your report and dashboard strategies and speaking with the necessary stakeholders to identify what they're looking for, you'll be able to support your organization and all of their data needs. Thank you for taking the Salesforce for Admins course. I hope it continues to be a valuable resource for you as you progress in your career. Whether you are certified or not, gaining some experience troubleshooting is key to becoming a proficient administrator in the office. You may even find other ways to support your organization as you improve your skills. While certain topics such as flow were not covered in this course, you can always learn more by visiting Trailhead or Salesforce's help guides. As someone who has been in your shoes, I wanted to share some advice that I wish I had known when I first became a Salesforce administrator. First, utilize sandboxes to experiment and gain hands-on experience. I learned early on that many organizations don't always follow best practices, so it's important for you to fill in technical gaps, become a problem solver, and share solutions with your team and with the wider Salesforce community. Second, learn how to say no when needed. As an administrator, you'll encounter situations where users ask you to solve problems using temporary solutions. It's important to think about how your implementations will impact larger groups and prioritize what's important. And finally, don't underestimate the importance of soft skills. In my experience, the most successful administrators are those who build relationships in the office. They take the time to interview users and identify gaps in their organization. which creates opportunities to resolve productivity issues and make a significant impact. I encourage you to continue your education and stay up to date with new features using Trailhead and the Trailblazer community. I wish you the best as you continue your Salesforce journey. Happy learning!